Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise, and former Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins me now to speak on the position of the WTO chief at the ongoing World Economic Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. What are the key factors driving these trade tensions, and how can they be resolved through diplomacy? Is that an option, really?
Well, with President Trump, I don't think that is an option. Because Trump came to power based on a particular set of promises. And one of the key promises was that he was going to impose tariffs, particularly on China, and later he extended it to Europe and Canada. So it is going to be extremely difficult to persuade him not to go that route. And knowing the kind of person he is, he acts with very deep convictions about such policy measures. So he's likely to do it, and he has the belief that it's going to, boost American economy, it's going to create more jobs in America and all of that. Now the WTO DG is appealing that there should be no retaliatory action. There's no way there's not going to be a retaliatory action. That is the nature of diplomacy. It's tit for tat. So we cannot avoid it. What we are likely to see is that we are going to see a new realignment of trading partners, investment partners, business partners globally, either bilaterally or multilaterally.
I take it then that you don't buy into Okonjo-Iweala's advice that there shouldn't be a tit for tat. That is not, if the U.S. goes ahead with the tariffs, there would be a retaliation. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. I mean, how do you convince a country on whose, that has been imposed on a very strong tariff on its own export to U.S. not to retaliate? It's going to be extremely difficult. So since he has made that pronouncement during his campaign, each country, each trading partner already have their own strategies on how to deal with the outcomes of that policy action once it takes effect.
But Doctor, how effective...
So clearly there will be...
sorry to interject. I just wanted to find out how effective are tariffs as a tool for achieving trade policy objectives, and what are the potential risks and unintended consequences?
Well, it can be effective in terms of the fact that it will localize consumption. In other words, most of the consumption within a country will now be things that are produced locally. But the flip side is that it's going to be inflationary. Because sometimes most of the things you import are things that you cannot produce at a much cheaper cost. So the advantage of international trade is that it comes from countries that have competitive and comparative advantage. In other words, your citizens will have the benefit of cheaper imports. But if you slam tariffs on them, then your citizens will have to pay more, because whatever you produce is likely to be more expensive, whatever you import is likely to be more expensive, and that will impose a lot of burden on the citizens, in addition to the retaliatory actions that will kick in as a result of that. Because no country is an island. There's interdependence of countries. So if a country decides to isolate itself, then the country must be ready to pay the price for it. That is what I think will happen.
What can international organizations like the WTO do in helping to resolve some of these trade wars?
You see, America is too big for anybody to control. That is the reality. We are seeing evidence of that with the UN. We are seeing evidence of that with what is happening in the Middle East. America is too big to control. It's even more so when you have a president like Trump. Nobody can control him unless he sees the consequences of his own action. And there is some internal opposition to it within America. That is when he can change. The WTO cannot dictate to President Trump or dictate to America. It cannot happen. It will not happen. I doubt it. And because it is a campaign issue, he would like to ensure that he delivers on the campaign promise.
What are your biggest fear with this trade war and how it might affect the global balance of power and the relationship between major economies like the US, China, and the EU?
No, it's going to lead to fragmentation of global economy. There'll be fragmentation, and when you have fragmentation of economies, it creates inefficiency problems. It increases costs across the world. It also disrupts the supply chains globally, something similar to what we had during COVID. These are some of the likely consequences. Another possible consequence is that countries around the world may decide to isolate US. Because if the US feels that it's so big and it's so powerful and it's just reckoning with any other country, then there's also the risk of isolation.
Dr. Yusuf, I doubt very much that is a possibility that the US will be isolated. I do hope it doesn't get to that. But of course, we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you much.